Hey everybody, and welcome back to VolleyTalk. We are at our normal time and day today. Today we are going to be talking a lot about the torso and the torso harness. I know last week, if you guys tuned in, we talked a lot about the hip and the hip harness and how it pertains to your volleyball swing and how it can make you a better hitter and everything like that. We also had a lot of great questions from the audience last week. So if you have any questions, make sure you ask us today. I'm Darian, one of your regular hosts here for Powercore 360 Volley Talk, and then I'll let Billy introduce yourself.
Hey, Billy Glisson, exercise physiologist, strength coach, founder of Powercore 360, and here to talk about volleyball power hitting in the torso harness today.
Yeah, awesome. So like we said, we're going to be talking about power hitting in the torso harness today. So we have some fun, I guess, fun if you like this stuff, topics planned. The first one we're going to dive into is how to open and turn your chest and shoulders to the right sideline and why that's such an important part of what we teach for volleyball. So Billy, I'll kind of let you get into that. Let me know whenever you want me to play some sort of video or anything like that, and I can do that.
Sure, sounds good. So, yeah, in volleyball language or talk, coaches oftentimes when you're attacking, hitting, we'll talk about a right-handed hitter here just to put everybody on the same page. Um, they are taught to open their chest, and specifically for us, we want them to open their chest, the center of their chest or sternum, from the right antenna to the right sideline. And when you do that, it is huge. It's huge in terms of hitting the ball harder and taking the stress, the pain, the injury risk off your hitting shoulder if you're a right-handed hitter, right? It's really important. So what happens is, in really simple terms, if you can turn your chest and shoulders to the right sideline, you stretch, you load big muscles in your abs, your core, your abdominal area, your back muscles, and those elastic tissues, that fascia we talked about last week. It all gets stretched and loaded. And like we said last week with the rubber band, man, if you pull on something elastic like your muscles or they stretch one direction, and then basically what happens is you create elastic energy, it goes back. So if you can open, in training terminology, if you can turn your chest and shoulders to the right sideline, you are going to hit the ball harder because you're using the big muscles of the hips, the core, the thighs, the legs, and the arm to hit the ball harder. It's huge. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to start this off with a social question before we get any deeper. Um, this is kind of different from the torso, and it has to do with the ball more than anything. So this is from Ella on Instagram, and it's how do I get on top of the ball, making sure it stays in front of me to approach while I'm hitting. And Ella, we'll talk about other things that you need today, like your torso harness and your torso in order to hit the ball harder. But Billy, what is your reaction to this comment?
Yeah, boy, that's something, as you know, Darren, when we get into the clinics, like so many kids come in and coaches are telling them, you got to get on top of the ball. Well, as you know, when you get in higher level club volleyball, or certainly at the collegiate level or even higher, right? Um, very few times are you actually hitting a ball that's going straight down. And so many athletes, male and female, are thinking, I got to get on top of every ball, hit it down straight. And then they get into a clinic and they can't get the ball over the net because all they've been training are the mechanics, the arm swing pattern to get on top of the ball, and the ball doesn't go over the top of the net. So if you've got a really high vertical jump, if you've got like the perfect set, if there are no blockers there on the other side of the net, then by all means work on getting on top of the ball to hit the ball down over the net and hit the ball straight down and score. The reality is at high level volleyball club, high school, college pro, probably those swings are going to be less than 5% of the time, right? A very small percentage of the time are you hitting that ball. Other times you actually have to hit down lower on the ball to create some ball that actually curves and goes up into the block, deflects off the blocker's hands, or goes over the blocker's hands with velocity, with speed, and with top spins. The ball goes over and drops into the court. So that may not be the answer they're searching for to how do you get on top of the ball. That's simple. Hit on top of the ball and hit it down, but then don't be shocked when you don't get the ball over the net. Learn to hit balls with velocity that are going to actually go up first, curve over the hands, curve over the net, and with top spin, drop into the court with velocity, but especially back into the deep corners where if you can hit back there with top spin and velocity, you're scoring. You're making your coaches happy. You're going to be happy because you're going to be playing a lot if you can do that. So there you go.
Yeah, great question to start it off. But we'll kind of circle back now to the torso harness and what today is about. But yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask and we will be sure to answer them here today. So, Billy, back to the torso harness. You gave a lot of good overview, I guess, to start. Can you dive deeper into what does this torso harness do to help your torso and how does resistance
Sure. And
bands play into
we'll
that?
do two things. Number one, I've got a torso harness on so you can see a visual of what the heck does a torso harness even look like. Here it is. It's a harness that goes over the really the bottom of the rib cage, not over the chest, but basically I take a harness, we take a resistance band, which I have hooked up to my right underarm there, and then we use resistance bands to either help us turn our shoulders to the right sideline so the athlete can feel when a coach says to them, well, what are you talking about? What's it feel like? What's the movement feel like when I'm supposed to open to the right sideline? If you take a resistance band, hook it to the torso harness, and go through 10 reps of that against resistance, take the band off, immediately the muscles responsible to open your chest, turn your chest, are going to be on. And the athlete's like, oh, that's what the coach is telling me to do, versus all the times coaches, you know the drill, coaches are telling athletes. That's not a very good way to teach movement. The best way to teach movement is to move them, let them feel it, and in 5-10 reps, they'll start to get it. Like, oh, that's what you want me to do. So, the first thing the torso harness does using resistance bands is gives the athlete the feel for the movement we want. When we say to them, open your chest, turn your chest to the right sideline, it gives them the feeling for how to do that. The next thing I'll say, and then maybe we'll have you play a video, is if I'm now turning my chest and shoulders against this resistance band, I'm turning to my right, away from where this resistance band is being held out in front of me. If I do it with a strong enough resistance band, I'm going to develop the strength in the muscles that are responsible to turn my chest and shoulders, to open them, to turn them to the right sideline. If I can turn them easier with less stress, with more ease, it's going to be easier in a match to do that, right? And if I work on resistance turning to the right and turning to the left, and you'll see that in the video in just a second, it's going to strengthen the muscles to help me open easier. And then here's the real key. Now I go back the opposite direction. I turn my chest and shoulders from right sideline towards left antenna. That turns my torso through, it creates body torque, right? That body torque now brings the arm through with much more power and speed because we're using the abdominal muscles, the back muscles, that elastic tissue we call about the fascia, the arm, the chest, the shoulder. All these muscles are working to hit the ball harder. So it becomes not only a teach piece that accelerates the speed of the learning, but it becomes a strength piece to strengthen the muscles of the core, to turn the chest and shoulders with more force, hit a heavy ball, hit with more arm speed, ball speed, however you want to talk about, hit the ball harder.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, what I want to say is I didn't realize you were wearing a torso harness. I thought you were just wearing some overalls today.
Gotcha. So maybe I'll kind of stand up for a second and you can see there's the torso. This harness sits on the bottom of the rib cage. It's not up on my chest. I've got a resistance band hooked to the right underarm. It could be the left underarm, doesn't matter. But that's what the torso harness looks like. And it is turning the torso. So you bring up a good point. So many times the coaches, the athletes, the parents we're talking to, we think they know what we're talking about. So we've got to simplify it. So the harness goes on, it turns the chest and shoulders, and it gives the athlete the feel for how to do that. It will speed the learning process. Instead of taking 5 lessons and 3,000 reps, it's like in 10 reps and 20 reps, they can feel how to do it. And here's the real cool thing. Not only will they feel it, they'll get stronger through the core muscles at the same time. But it's really important for them to understand in simple terms. That's what we're trying to do. Get them to open easier and create more force, more strength when they turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that was a really good section about this topic. I want to go back to a social question really quick and then come back to this. The social question we just got from Instagram is when I jump to spike, my knees don't bend much. Is it important to bend your knees while spiking? If so, how can I bend my knees while spiking?
Yeah, so if you look at the best hitters in the world, male or female, they'll get into what we call the reverse power C. And specifically to the question, you will see the knees bend and the feet come up behind the body, right? And in that position, you'll create more force from your whole body. You'll actually use your legs and your quads, your thigh muscles, in addition to your core muscles, arm, chest, and shoulders. However, with that being said, I wouldn't work on that first. That's like graduate school level hitting. It's like getting your master's or your PhD. When we work with even Division I hitters, when I've done that in the past, I might be 6 hours into training with them, or 6 sessions, 6 1-hour sessions into them before I'm worrying about what their feet and knees are doing, right? The most important thing we teach the athletes first is face the right antenna, come in on your approach, and just like we're talking about today, open your chest and shoulders if you're a right-handed hitter to the right sideline in the air to get that stretch. Because if you do that, I guarantee you right now, not in 6 weeks of training, right now you'll hit the ball harder because your abdominal muscles will stretch, back muscles will stretch, they'll pull your arm and chest and shoulder through faster, your hand will come through faster, you will hit the ball immediately harder. You'll see it, you'll feel the difference. If a coach is watching you, they'll see the difference, they'll hear the difference, your hand contacting the ball. But that is the first and most important thing that they really need to do is open right before they start to close. Open that chest to the sideline, and that takes us back to what are we talking about today? How to
Mhm.
use the hip harness to help you turn and open. How do you get it to close, right? Here we go.
Yeah, torso harness. Torso
Yeah,
harness.
yeah,
Yes. Um, so yes, that is a very good segue. So yeah, like Billy said, the power C is obviously a position that is very advanced. It's not something that you need to worry about first. If you want to get to hitting harder, faster, this is today what we're talking about is what you need to focus on. So what we're focusing on again is the torso harness and opening that torso up and why that's important. So I'm going to play a video here for you, Billy. Can you explain what is going on in this video to everybody watching?
awesome. So this is one of our recent 8-hour clinics. She's got a torso harness on. The torso harness is kind of gray. It's hard to see, but you'll see where the band is. These are all right-handed hitters in the foreground there. They're kneeling. They're in the, guess what, reverse power C position. And in fact, they're learning to open up and close. The torso harness is on. You also see a hip harness, but the band is hooked to her left underarm. It's connected there. The band runs across the front of her chest there, and then it's behind her, and it is helping her open and getting the feel right there as she turns to the right. The band is pulling on the torso harness. The torso harness is turning the chest and shoulders open to the right sideline. It's giving them the feel for that. It's building flexibility and their ability, mobility, if you would, to open to the right sideline. And then they are turning their chest and shoulders from the right sideline towards the left antenna, left sideline. When they do that, now they are activating, strengthening, engaging the muscles around their torso, their spine, their core to make them stronger so that when the arm comes through, they're hitting with the forces of their core, their abdominal muscles, their back muscles, their chest, arm, and shoulder, instead of just swinging their arm at it, right? Hey, I've got an idea here. Rather than just watching the video, let's do this, Darian. Let's have everybody that's watching participate a little bit. So what we're going to ask everybody to do is, assuming you're healthy enough to do this, get down in that same position and actually put that video back up still frame, because we're going to have you get in the same position that those athletes are in right there. So we'll do this. Get down in a kneeling position. You won't have a torso harness on, but we're going to have you kneel with both knees bent. That goes back to that first question. The thighs are going to be straight. The feet are bent up because the feet are up behind the body because the knees are bent. Get in that position, and then I'm going to give everybody about 20 seconds to get there. Now I'm going to let them walk through and feel what happens when you stretch and load those muscles that the torso harness is training, right? All right, so everybody's here. Everybody's kneeling on the ground. Imagine you're a right-handed hitter. Hopefully you are. If you're lefty, pretend for a second you're a right-handed hitter. Imagine that you're kneeling and facing the right antenna, just like these athletes are, right? Now, your belly button's going to stay facing the right antenna. I want you to turn your chest and shoulders gently to the right sideline. And as you're turning your chest and shoulders to the right sideline, just let your arms go with you. So don't take your arm back. Turn your torso to the right sideline. Your arms will go with it. And if you stay kneeling, I bet you $1.48, everybody is feeling a little stretch on the outside front left thigh and quadricep. I bet they're feeling a little stretch across their abdominal muscles. I bet they're feeling a stretch through their torso. In fact, they're stretching the muscles, the hitting muscles that are going to help unwind the body. Because in essence, these athletes and you guys kneeling there at home are winding up. And then we're asking you to unwind, to turn your chest and shoulders from right sideline back. But I bet you'll feel When you're in that kneeling reverse power C position, I bet you'll feel all the muscles from, once again, your left quad, left thigh, left hip, across your abdominal, and stretch into your right chest and shoulders. So everybody do that about slowly 5 or 10 times. So you're kneeling, you're opening to the right, you're feeling that stretch. Now you'll actually feel how maybe your thigh and your left hip and your abdominal muscles will help you turn your chest and shoulders back to the left, back towards the left antenna, back towards the left sideline. Let's do it slowly, about 4 or 5 times. We can't see you guys at home, but we're going to give you another 20 seconds to go through that drill. All right, let's assume everybody's done that. Stand back up and just stand and do the same drill. But this time, because you're not kneeling, as you turn your chest to the right sideline, you're not going to feel near the muscles stretching. You're not going to feel your hips, your core, and all those guys stretching, probably like you did in kneeling. So that kneeling position is why we train initially in the clinics and at home in the follow-on programs. We teach our athletes to get in that reverse power C position. They stretch and load all the muscles. That as you turn that chest, that torso harness is working, that's allowing that out to feel the stretch and load, because that's the same thing we want them to do in the air to hit like world-class hitters hit, right? Makes sense? All right.
Yeah.
Hope everybody was able to do that and get a feel for that.
Yeah, we got a comment saying that's amazing. So they must have felt it, which is great.
Cool. Of course, just to make sure we've dotted our I's and done a little homework here. You wouldn't normally do that. We don't go into the harness. If athletes are following our protocol, they're warming up first. They're healthy. Their backs and spines are healthy, and they're going through this slow. We're not going through fast right now. We're just working on the ability to turn to the right, get that stretch, feel what it feels like, and then once we do that a couple times per week in the program, then guess what happens? You go in the air; those muscles are on, and you start, we talked about last week, closing, turning your belly button from right antenna to left after your chest is open to the right, right? Correct? So when you do that, man, you're going to start feeling what it feels like for your whole body to rotate, just like the world-class hitters do, just like every rotational athlete that throws or hits a ball above head, throws a football, throws a baseball, throws a javelin, hits a tennis ball. You're going to start feeling how much easier it is to hit the ball hard and take the stress off that shoulder, so it's not just your shoulder working. The whole body's rotating, the whole body's working.
Yeah, we got a couple comments. One was that was a great stretch. And other is a question, and it's is the left hand supposed to be extended and up the whole time? When does it come down when you're going? All right, I'll read that question to you again, Billy. Sorry, everybody, we froze there for a second. We got a couple comments saying when they did it, they felt like a great stretch. And then the other comment was, what do I do with my left hand? Is it just extended the whole time?
Cool. One good comment. It is a good stretch, and that's the stretch. That's the load I was talking about earlier. You want that stretch. You want that load in the air when you hit, right? Right side, left side, jump serve. You want that. Okay. Left hand. Great question. Left hand should come to the center of the heart, and think of it like this. I'll show you the motion. If I'm a right-handed hitter and I tilt back, I open my chest up to the right sideline. My left hand's kind of pointing up to the ball. What we want to have happen is we want fast shoulder and hips core rotation, right, to create fast arm speed. If my left hand just hangs out in front of the body, which it'll do on a lot of young hitters, their arm will be out there for balance, it slows down the turn of the shoulder, it slows down the arm speed. You're not going to hit the ball as hard, right? But if I actually take my left hand and as I start to turn my chest and shoulders from right sideline towards left antenna, if I bring this left hand right into the center of my chest, so my left hand and arm and elbow are going to bend, my hand comes into the chest, the speed of my shoulders will increase. And guess what also increases? Arm speed, ball speed with that. I think the Olympics just being over, at least the summer games. In the winter games, what you'll see is this year you'll watch a figure skater, and that's a great analogy. Everybody has a picture of a figure skater who goes out and on the ice goes into a really fast, tight spin. What are they doing? They do not keep their arms out away from their body. What they do is they bring their arms into the center of their chest, they bring their feet into the center of the body, and what happens to the speed of the rotation? Everybody can picture that. They start going into this fast spin and to slow down, they take their arms away. So we apply those same physics, and a really simple way of explaining it conceptually is to say, when you swing, that's a function of what the left hand does to help your shoulders rotate faster. Pull that hand in quickly. That'll help your shoulders rotate. That'll help your arm and elbow come through the ball, hit the ball immediately harder, right? No strength and conditioning needed. It's just mechanics. Bring your left hand into your heart fast as you start to turn.
For sure. We just have another question as well from Instagram here. It's when I jump, my hand doesn't go all the way back. And when it does, my timing to hit the ball kind of go off, or the ball goes into the net, or the ball goes off the court. So what's the solution?
You have to train it, right? If you're used to just lifting your arm up and you get used to that pattern and that kind of swing technique, you add something new, yeah, you're going to have to train it. It's going to change your timing of your approach, your swing, and everything else. So that's why you have to train, right? You have to work on opening your chest and torso and then allowing the arm to come back and load and then rotating back through. It will change your swing. Start on the ground, start with some throws, take that into hits into the net, then take that into hits over the net, and then go into a hook or go into the air off a toss or something, and work on it gradually. And understand nobody becomes world class in a day, a week, a month, a year. It takes time. So yes, it's going to change your timing, and that's why you have to go train it.
Yeah, for sure. We have another question too, asking if there's a video to show chest and shoulder movement. So I'm just going to play this video one more time for everybody that's on here. And Billy, if you just want to explain what the chest movement is very briefly here, that would be
Sure.
awesome.
Really quickly, they're on the ground, they're kneeling, they're facing the right antenna. They are opening their chest and shoulders to the right sideline. That's exactly the body position and the movement we want in the air as they're for a right-handed hitter facing the left antenna as they go up in the air. The chest turns to the right sideline. It creates more power. It uses the muscles from your thigh up through your buttocks, your core, your back, your chest, your arm, and shoulders. It allows you to hit harder and takes the isolated stress off your hitting shoulder. You hit harder, you score more, you're going to be a happy hitter, right? You're going to make coaches happy, you'll score more.
For sure. Awesome. Hopefully that video helped. We have another comment here that actually isn't to do with volleyball, but baseball. And they're wondering if we can do a baseball tutorial. So we actually have a baseball account if you want to go follow that. It's called Powercore 360 Baseball. So if you want to see some examples, or maybe we'll do a video or two on there just with some exercises that you guys can do for baseball.
Yeah, in fact, as we speak, as Daria knows, we are uploading a bunch of videos today to her that she'll post on the baseball site, pitching first and then hitting. And so these are athletes, Division I athletes, pro athletes, whatever the case is, that are hitting, pitching, pro athletes that you'll see over the next few days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, make sure to follow that account and just check out if you're looking for more baseball specific tips and not volleyball. To kind of finish up with the torso harness today, Billy, can you explain why you don't need to necessarily strength train like usual, but you can do the chest opening and work on your chest and torso opening to hit the ball harder? I know you kind of touched on it. It's not regular strength training, but it is a form of strength training still.
When you do kind of normal strength training, right? Let's say you're doing a chest press, right, or an incline press, bench press, whatever. You're pushing a bar up, your arms and shoulders are moving, but if you look at my spine, what's my spine doing? It's not turning. So it's making my arm, chest, and shoulders stronger to push a bar out. No, it creates a push pattern, right? Well, we're teaching rotational training. We're creating torque. Torque means there's movement and force around an object, right? So we actually have to train the body. If you want to be better as a pitcher, a hitter, a volleyball hitter in this case, whatever the case is, you actually have to train the muscles to turn and control the movement of the spine and create forces as you're doing it. If you don't train it to turn, you're not going to have the ability to turn. Another really great example, a great exercise is like a plank. Everybody gets down on the ground and does a plank, elbows, knees, toes, doesn't matter what level plank you're doing. But once again, a great dynamic exercise to create stability through the spine, but with the spine not rotating. If you are in this case, volleyball hitter, and we're wanting you to learn to rotate and create what we call hip and shoulder separation, just keep it simple, to turn and turn faster to create more arm speed, You've got to teach the body and train the body to be able to actually rotate, create rotational forces, and tolerate rotational forces, right? Makes sense? So you got to train to turn. That's what we do. That's what the harnesses do. They create rotational strength, flexibility, mobility, stability, strength, power, all in a rotational, we said it last week, transverse plane of the body, right? And other traditional exercises are working on maybe like a plank, just stabilizing the body with no rotation. You do a squat, you're working on flexion, extension, up and down vertical movements, right? You do an RDL, same thing. Great exercises for flexion, extension. But if you're trying to learn to rotate, they are not going to help you rotate the body. They're not going to strengthen the movements of rotation of your hip, spine, pelvis, arm, or anything else.
For sure. We got one more comment here on.
Go for it.
Sorry. Yeah, we have one more comment here on YouTube. What exercises to strengthen the lower back from rotating the back? So I would assume maybe their back is hurting from rotation or what they think is rotation. So could you maybe, from limited knowledge here?
Sure. I'm trying to decipher what the question is. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. If you don't ever rotate the back, and then let's say you're a volleyball player and you're a right-hander and you're always rotating from right to left. Actually, we had a question last week on one of the socials about this, I think. Do we rotate and train both directions, from right to left? Yes, yes, yes. You need to be able to train from left to right as well, so you have symmetry, the ability to turn your hips, your pelvis, your spine, your shoulder blades, not only right to left as a hitter, but from left to right. Both need to be in balance. The more you do that, the harder you're going to hit the ball and the healthier and safer you're going to be. So if you've got maybe a person with back pain who's never rotating, right, they haven't trained, and so let's get into some specific muscles. Maybe that's what they're looking for. Some deep abdominal muscles called your transverse abdominis, or TA for short, right? And multifidus. Multifidus are muscles that are like this. They sit in the spine and they kind of sit diagonally, and their job is to either rotate the spine or keep the spine from rotating. If you're doing a plank or you're doing some other exercises that are common and popular in the gym with bands or something, you might be taking the arms out in front and doing this. This will turn multifidus on, but it's not teaching the spine to rotate and to be able to control rotational movements. The harnesses, when you put them on the torso and or the hips, and you put resistance bands on and work in the transverse plane of the body, are working on multifidus. They're working on the transverse abdominis. They are working on internal, external obliques, other abdominal muscles that help either create rotation or control rotation. They will allow you to turn the body and protect your back and hit the ball harder, protect your spine, hips, pelvis in the process. They all need to be worked in rotational methods, or rotational methods, if you would, right and left, and following some probably pretty specific protocols.
For sure. Another couple questions here we got. The last second is we had a couple about serving on Instagram, and then also this one about serving on YouTube. So I pulled it up. I've been playing volleyball for a while. I need some tip on my serves. The other one we're getting about serves is how do you hit a serve with a jump serve with good timing? Do you have to get the toss perfect? And then do you land on the court? Those kind of questions.
All right. So I'm going to tie it back to the topic of hand today, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're working on just a regular serve and it's a floater and you're not getting much rotation, great. You need to have a floater in your arsenal. Wonderful. That's what everybody hits, is a floater, right? The world-class hitters in the world you watch, if you just watch the Olympic Games and watch the men or the women, but if you really watched any of the men's like U.S. team play, and you watch some of the guys hitting a jump serve, man, they're taking off. They're covering 10 or 15 feet on a serve, on a toss, hitting a jump spin, a top spin ball that's going over the net, just exactly what we're talking about. It's going over the net. It's going up first. It's curving. And because of top spin, man, it is dropping down with velocity. That's what you need to be able to add to a float. If all you're hitting is a floater, you got to be more diverse. You got to have better swings, right? You got to have some speed, some top spin, and some other things to add to that. So everything we're talking about is, don't think of it as a serve. You're going to hit a jump spin or a top spin serve, but open your chest first. Open to the right sideline. Close your hips and belly button, like we said last week, from right antenna to left antenna. Do it fast. Open first, close fast, then with your belly button right to left. Your body is going to turn, your arm is going to come whipping through. Yes, now you got to work on your toss, the timing of your toss, the placement of your toss, where you can hit the ball over the net. When you start doing it that way and learn to control it, you're going to start hitting the ball with much more velocity, probably with top spin, right? And especially if you use a hand, arm, and wrist that are loose and not like a stiff wrist and stiff hand you're using on a floater. Top spin balls, spinners like that, man, everything's got to be loose. The body creates power. The hand and arm and wrist and fingers come through the ball, hit the top of the ball, not down. They hit the top of the ball to create forward spin in a ball that goes up first and then drops. That's a lot. Sorry. But keep
No,
doing the same things we're working on and learn to do it. And yeah, it's when you're hitting the top spin, that's once again, we're talking about a jump serve. That's advanced stuff. Work on it. You'll find the court. Even if you're not a pin hitter or middle, right? You're not even playing front row. If you can serve and hit a top spin ball and hit a floater and hit the ball and score, you will find yourself on the court in the rotation. You will find yourself playing on really good teams, and you'll find probably a bright future. And I don't care if you're 5'2", right, and play back row, learn to serve with velocity and control. You will find the court. You'll find yourself in the lineup.
for sure. Last one, really quick answer. And I think I know your answer to this. They're wondering how many steps they should take as a left side hitter. Everybody has always told me different numbers from 2 to 4.
Three to four is probably a 3-step or 4-step approach if you're trying to go play college.
Mm-hmm.
Many collegiate coaches will want you to be able to do a 4-step approach. I would tell you to be able to do 3, be able to do 4, and I've been taught by some good coaches, and some of them will talk about they don't care if you take 10 steps, right? You may hit an out of system ball in the back row, and who cares how many steps you take? Hit the ball over and get it in play with some velocity and some force, with some control, and be athletic, right? So get less, work on a 3-step, work on a 4-step, but then work on being able to adapt, because that's what happens when the set isn't perfect, and that's what happens in the middle of a match. You got to be an athlete and adapt. I think you froze up there for a second, Darian.
Yep. Sorry about that, guys. One thing I just wanted to add to that was make sure that out of all of your steps, the last 2 are the most important, right? Those are where the ball is going to be. So whether you work on your 3-step, whether you work on your 4-step, if you're working on your 4-step, just make sure those last 2 are where the ball is and you're approaching straight to the ball. But thank you guys all for the great questions today. We got a lot of good questions. Like I said, every single Tuesday at 3 o'clock or 2:45, somewhere around there, you can check us live on every single of our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So if you guys have any questions or want to catch us live or see what topics we're going to be talking about, join again, set an alarm for Tuesday at 3 o'clock or anything like that, and we will be sure to answer any questions. You guys can also DM us or comment any questions, and we'll be sure to either create a topic about it or answer them in the future. But thank you to everybody that joined today. You guys were great, and thank you, Billy, for answering all those questions.
You bet. You guys have a great one. See you.